Good morning, everyone. This is Michael, and here we are in the Little Bear Meditation Center, up very far north, and the Arctic is showing its stuff now. So we're going to meditate upon the foundation of all we do. I wonder sometimes what the Christ saw in the Garden of Gethsemane some 2,000 years ago, when he acquiesced to the will of the Father, and in a way he took the sixth initiation. That was part of it. Not my will, but thine be done. Maybe he saw this difficult period of transition when, in a way, humanity can hardly be trusted to perpetuate itself without the right kind of guidance. Sometimes we see terrible decisions being made which fragment the human race and which bring imminent danger in an era of atomic weaponry, and who knows what additional weaponry there will be. So the reappearance of the Christ is hugely important to humanity and to the planet. I think it's, time for the second-ray soul of the planet to really assert itself. And it will take a long time in terms of human years or Earth years, but it will be happening and will lead gradually to the sacredness of our planet. What is a sacred human being? Is a sacred human being a master or an initiate of the third degree? And maybe what we're talking about here is the fifth degree, a truly sacred human being, and we're taking a kind of subsidiary fourth initiation on this planet now, and as the round continues, or perhaps in the new round, there will be an opportunity to take that fifth subsidiary and become a sacred planet. Now I'd like to read to you a little bit from the Reappearance of the Christ, which I think many of us agree is a book that should be read every year, really. Sometimes I'm able to do this, and sometimes I'm not doing the program, and we don't necessarily have the readings from the book. Sometimes we do, but we can continue. We were speaking of being the light of the world. DK tells us that the Buddha also said this, and that Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great Hermes, also said this. Well, the Christ has said it. I am the light of the world. This light will now flood the world of men, bringing illumination to men's minds and light into the dark places of human living. So let's see, I want to give us a sense, well, maybe when I come to a page, it's page 58. Okay. It is light, and above all else, life more abundantly, which Christ will bring. And until he brings it, we know not what it signifies. We can realize the revelation which this will entail and the new possibilities which will open up before us. But through him, light and life are on their way, and of course we would have to, since he is the Lord of love, that would be abundantly present. Light and life are on their way to be interpreted and applied in terms of goodwill and right human relations. For this, the spiritual hierarchy is preparing, and almost since its foundation, some 18 million years ago, or is it 18 and a half, a half a million years is 500,000 years. It's a huge amount of time. Well, things moved slowly in the earlier days, and now we can take our own evolution in hand. So the spiritual hierarchy, Sanat Kumara, the Lords of the Flame, they foresaw all of this and the crisis through which we would be passing. This time, the Christ will not come alone, for his co-workers will come with him. His experience and theirs will be the reverse of the previous one, for this time every eye shall see him, though the question of recognition still remains. Every eye shall see him, every ear will hear him, and every mind will pass judgment upon him. That's, as the Christ contemplates that, we can perhaps not doubt the kind of, I don't know if I should call it anxiety, not in the proper sense. DK called it the horror that he must pass through his consciousness as he contemplates his huge task. And DK says this. Well, it's a task far bigger than we can ever realize. We can freely aid in the reconstruction work. Remember the forces of reconstruction under Gemini, which is the head of the cosmic Christ. We can aid freely, or we can freely aid in the reconstruction work which the Christ proposes, if we will familiarize ourselves and all men whom we can contact with the following facts. Okay, so here are the facts. The reappearance of the Christ is imminent. We know not the date nor the hour, but in terms of time that has already elapsed historically, and even in terms of time since his last appearance, it will come relatively soon. I think my impression is, although we're not supposed to run around and say, lo here, lo there, the way some students do, at least a century has to pass where the hierarchy externalizes itself and is active in the 5 major planetary centers: New York, London, Geneva, Darjeeling, Tokyo. There's so much to do to prepare the foundation. So, yes, the reappearance of Christ is imminent, timely. Some people have thought, well, 2025 is the time. No doubt he is on the way, but 2025, it seems to me, is other than his reappearance. It's the time when the plans More specific plans, in all probability, will be set down for the reappearance, the actual externalization of the hierarchy itself, and later then, as the peak of this process must come the reappearance of the Christ. Okay, another fact, number 2, that the Christ immanent, notice the difference in those words. The first one, imminent, means soon to occur, and immanent means deeply within. That the Christ immanent in every human heart can be evoked in recognition of his appearance. The Buddhic energy, the love, wisdom energy is deep within all of us, and as the Christ's reappearance approaches, the Christ, the love, wisdom, the Buddhi within us is strengthened. Then there is the statement that the circumstances of his return are only symbolically related in the world scriptures and may produce a vital change in the preconceived ideas of humanity. Well, that would be a good thing. There are so many childish, concretized, preconceived ideas which, when the symbol is taken literally, lead to a falsification of the truth. So we need to prepare men's minds and hearts for the reappearance of the Christ. Okay, we need to have a different worldview, and that will surely emerge. Then number 4, that the major required preparation is a world at peace, well, at least at peace to a certain degree, a large measure of peace. However, says the Tibetan, that peace must be based on an educated goodwill. Educated goodwill, one really sees the reason for it, which will lead inevitably to right human relations, and therefore to the establishment, figuratively speaking, of lines of light between nation and nation, religion and religion, group and group, and man and man. Well, you can see some of the work of the triangles right here, because as these triangles are truly and deeply established, it will be possible to have these lines of light between nations, religions, groups, and between human beings themselves. If we can succeed in presenting these 4 ideas to the world at large, and thus in overcoming the intelligent criticism that all that is said is too vague, prophetic, visionary, we shall have done much. So, 4 points to the world. The imminence of the reappearance, the inherence of the Christ principle within every human heart, the symbolic nature of the discussion of his coming, his return, his reappearance, and that we need peace for this. And of course, sharing is one of those factors that brings about peace rather than the privation through which so many millions are passing, and it's really pitiful to see it. So we shall have done much if we can present these four ideas. It is possible, surely, that the ancient truism that the mind is the slayer of the real may be fundamentally true where the mass of humanity is concerned, and that the purely intellectual approach which rejects the vision and refuses to accept the unprovable may be far more at fault than the anticipation of the knowers of God and the expectant multitude. So this is the cultivation of faith, and humanity will need it if it is going to touch the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Okay, friends, I think there's not really so much more to read, but I think this is enough for the moment. It's a huge process, something so vitally important and yet unknown by billions, and the many who expect this reappearance are often taking the symbol for the reality, and therefore subject themselves to the criticism of the intelligentsia, which sees the fanciful nature of what the truly expectant ones believe. So we need to correct certain ideas. Now let's see, this is the end. And, I'm here, somewhere here. I just want to kind of mark my place and of ROC readings. And today is the 10th of October and 2019. Okay, I want to get back to the point where I can show you the text right now. There's some button that needs to be pushed or unpushed, and we will again see the text together. Right now we see a likeness of Master Decay. Okay, very good. Well, whatever else we do, in the back of our minds, this is the process which we must have in mind and interpret life events in terms of this process. So we're very grateful to the Tibetan having presented this to us in a manner that is not childish, is mature, and really indicates a vital aspect of the divine plan. Now let's go on to our meditation. And we in the light, breathing white light, And we see our co-disciples in the light. And we see our briefly imagining the triangles that we are personally involved in as a unit, and the relationship of that unit of triangles, whether it's one or more, to the network of triangles. And then those lines of light about which the Tibetans spoke, they will occur. Love and goodwill and light will flow through them, through our relations with each other. Goodwill and light. Okay, in our meditation then, we achieve this positive and intended personality quietness, and we formulate clearly to ourselves and in our own words the answers to the following questions. As a member of the new group of world servers, what is your, or my, or our specific fixed intention at this moment of dedicated contact with the soul? Is my concentrated and expressed personality purpose in line with hierarchical intention as far as I am permitted to know it? Have I, in my own personal daily life, earned the right, because of definite effort and not so much because of success, to stand with those servers who are now undertaking the work of preparation? And then having answered these important questions in the light of the soul, so we know as much as possible where we really stand, then we will say a really important mantra, which, well, it kind of separates sheep from the goats in the esoteric meaning of that. Forgetting the things which lie behind, I will strive towards my higher spiritual possibilities. I dedicate myself anew to the service of the coming one, and will do all I can to prepare men's minds and hearts for that event. I have no other life intention. Okay. And then we can ask ourselves whether we have developed such a sense of spiritual values that we can ascribe to that mantra. Now, our thought goes towards the world. So we visualize the world situation as best we can in terms of our major world interests and with what knowledge of world affairs we may possess. Do we see peace? Do we see sharing, governing the economic relations between nations? Do we see that the political and religious organizations are cleansed? So what do we do about that? We see the mass of men everywhere glowing with a dim light. And here and there will be points of brighter light where members of the new group of world servers and men and women of spiritual intention and of loving hearts are working for their fellow human beings. And then we visualize through the creative imagination the vivid light of the hierarchy, and we see it streaming towards humanity and slowly merging with the light which is already in the human race. Always this light is pouring forth, attempting to strengthen the light already within us. And then we will say together the first stanza of the latest of the great invocations. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. So a more illumined humanity will result. Then we ponder on the reappearance of the Christ and realize that no matter by what name he may be called in the many world religions, he is still the same great identity. We reflect and we speculate upon the possible results of his reappearance. And I think if we contrast the desires and intentions which guide humanity at present, we can see that there will be a huge change. We will then say the second stanza of this great invocation. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. realize that we must concentrate our fixed intention to serve and to serve in our surroundings, and to the extent that we can do this, we are attempting to blend our personal will with the divine will. That is the will for this hour, that love should stream forth, and that the soul of our planet should express. Whereas for so many millions of years that humanity has been on the planet, it has been the personality which has expressed. So to blend then with the divine will, and that will is love at first. In the next solar system, maybe something still more intense along the line of will. So then, the third stanza of the great invocation. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. Okay. We have to be practical about this. We consider practically what we can do in the coming week to further the preparation for the coming of the Christ. We remember that we are a group of working forerunners, maybe another 4.5 years or so. 5.5 years exists in this era of the forerunners. It will be a very intense time, and hopefully human values will take a turn for the better as we realize what the cost of selfishness is. I wonder how many of us really know what that cost is. Certainly, the fragmentation and division and submission to the great heresy of separateness or separatists. So then, let us respond to the vibration of the Christ and commit ourselves in His name. And we say, we have gathered in your name, Lord Maitreya, be with us. we know that wherever two or more are gathered in his name, there he will be. So, every week we reassert our commitment to this great process, pursued in the way we find best, but the Tibetan has given some very worthy service activities. We close by dedicating the threefold personality to the work of preparation. And we sound the Om 3 times. Well, thank you everyone, and may we be, as a result of our inner work and our outer application, closer and ever closer to the Christ and his hierarchy. May we spread goodwill, help people understand the true nature of the Christ and his hierarchy, spread the book, The Reappearance of the Christ, so people get a better idea of something true and not fanciful. Let us somehow accomplish this.
My Inscribe